Hi guys, Pete the Wargamer here, back with another painting tutorial. In this video, I'll be showing you how to paint the HBT Camouflage worn by American forces for a short time after D-Day. And I'll be using Warlord Games U.S Infantry and the Army Painter range of paints to do so. Now before we go on, if you wanted to try out the camouflage pattern in this tutorial, Wargames Illustrated are giving away a free US Infantry sprue in its June edition, which you can paint in the colours and techniques that I'll be using in this video. Before we start painting, we first of all need to apply a primer so the later layers of paint adhere to the miniature's surface. It doesn't matter too much which colour you go for, but I've opted to use a grey airbrush primer to help paint the various midtones of the miniature. The first step in painting the camouflage is to get the base colour down. For these, I like to thin down the paints with a little water. The paint I'm using for this first step is Combat Fatigue, so mix it with your water in roughly equal quantities, which will make the paint easier to work with. With your thinned Combat Fatigues, you can then apply this paint to either the jacket, trousers or both. Apply your first coat, then after allowing it to dry, apply a second coat over the top. This layering technique will ensure you have a good, smooth base colour to build upon with your washes and highlights. With the base coat completed, we now want to apply a wash of military shader, but before we do so, we need to again thin it down. This is because applying it straight from the bottle would be much too strong. However, instead of using water, this time I'll be mixing in some of the Army Painter Quickshade mixing medium in equal parts wash to medium. The medium works by reducing the amount of pigment in the wash without changing its consistency. I find that this results in a much smoother and more subtle result than mixing in with water. However, if you don't have access to the medium, you could instead use some distilled water. With your thinned military shader, you now want to apply this wash over the area that we painted in the last step. This will flow into the recessed areas, creating some shading and helping to boost the level of detail. Once the wash is dried, we can begin applying a highlight to help emphasize some details of the model. To do this, lightly drag the tip of a thin brush along the raised edges. This will create a small line of lighter paint along these areas, helping to improve both depth and definition. We'll start off by highlighting the model with some Drake Tooth over the areas that we base coated with Combat Fatigues. By thinning down the paint with just a little water, we should make this task much easier, as the flow of paint should be much smoother than if you'd used it straight from the bottle. Now that we have the base colour of the uniform applied, washed and highlighted, we can start to add the camouflage pattern itself. It will consist of patches of two colours. The first of these is Commando Green. Using a fine brush, apply some small, irregularly shaped and sized blobs across the uniform. Make sure that the patches aren't too close together, as we still need to add the second colour as well. Once the first layer has dried, you can apply a second layer to some of the patches. This will create some variations in the colour too. Using the same method as before, we'll next be applying some brown patches to the camouflage pattern, and for this, I'll be using some Monster Brown. And here we have the finished HBT Camouflage. Now whilst the uniform on this model isn't strictly the correct one for the scheme, on a tabletop scale this won't matter too much and is a quick way of adding some historical flavour to your miniatures. You can finish the rest of the model by following the steps detailed in my generic US Infantry painting tutorial, which you can find a link to in the description below. As I mentioned before, you will find a US Infantry sprue in the June edition of Wargames Illustrated, so keep an eye out for that magazine in your newsagents if you would like to try out these techniques. You can find a full list of all the paints that I've used in this tutorial in the description below, along with any other equipment that I've used to create this video. If you enjoyed this video, do let me know in the comments below, and if you haven't done so already, be sure to check out my Patreon page if you would like to support me in making these videos. If you have any questions or would just like to chat with others who enjoy my channel, I've set up a Discord server which you can find a link to in the description below. So the only thing left to say is, thanks for watching and goodbye.